Today, we're talking about the two infamous words, book now. We're going to talk about what those words are doing to your social media content, how you should avoid them, what you should use instead, and the few times you actually should use them. Want to learn more? Listen to this episode. Let's dig in. Welcome to the Social Takeoff Podcast, a podcast for travel professionals who are ready to use social media to help their business take off. I'm Kelli Hay-Smith, your host. I'm travel agent turned social media marketer who now works with multiple seven-figure travel agencies to help them infuse strategy and create a target social plan. I'll be sharing all of the tips and tricks of the trade, as well as content ideas and trends that you should be using to help grow your travel business. Let's get started. So yesterday I posted the precursor Instagram post to this episode, and I was not surprised at how many people commented about this idea. So I shared calls to action to avoid on your social media content. And the big thing is that book now idea. DM us to book now, comment below to book now, click the link in our bio to book now. Or even worse, putting a web address or an email in the caption of your Instagram. Y'all, first off, they are not clickable in your Instagram posts. They're not clickable. So stay away from any type of link or like web address in your Instagram caption. But let's talk about book now. What that does, what that sets you up for, and what people think when they see that. So I want you to like, if you're driving, don't close your eyes, but like I want you to kind of imagine with me when you see like book now scroll across the screen. It's usually in some ad style hot deal post. Usually it's a sponsored post that is going across the screen, and it's probably from one of those online booking engines. Now, I did a live on my Instagram last Friday. If you haven't watched it, I really recommend you go watch it. It talks about how to set yourself apart from those booking engines. But usually it's those booking engines that are like sharing this hot deal and telling you to book now, right? The word book is doing your travel planning business no favors. When you start talking about booking, people tune out because they can do that on their own. And they can. They're right. Like, let's stop trying to pretend like people can't book their trip online. They can. The key to that is that you don't book vacations. That's a process that you have to complete to do your job. But your job is the planning and the service and the maintenance of that vacation. And so when your call to action is simply book now, here's the thing. If you go back and look at your content right now, I want you to think about this and look at your posts. How many of you are writing an entire caption about a destination? You're sharing about this amazing resort or this amazing vacation or whatever, and the entire caption's about the destination. Maybe it's tips and tricks. Maybe it is maybe it's just like information or even insight into a destination. And your call to action is DM me to book now, or let me book this for you, or whatever. All you have done is given them information that they could have gotten from the destination and told them to book it with you. Well, they don't need to. You've given them information about the destination and you've told them to go book it. So they don't need you. Why do they need a middleman? And that's like, if I'm going to be honest, that's one of the objections, right? They don't want a middleman in their vacation. So when you talk about book now, when that is, well, we're going to talk about several things, but that call to action specifically is giving people the heebie-jeebies because they just see a middleman in the service. If you're not speaking to the service, if you're not telling them what it is that you will do for them, you are losing them because they think they can do it on their own. And they're right. They can book the vacation on their own. They don't need you to book the vacation. That's the easy part. So if you're not talking about the hard part, if you're not talking about the actual service, why would they book now? So let's talk about some other calls to action that you can use. And I listed some of these out in one of the comments on that post from yesterday. But I really talked about staying away from sales calls to action. We really should be serving 3 times as much as we are selling. And I think that we should be posting ad style posts or promotion posts way less than that. But let's say that you serve and have an engaging call to action 3 times as much as a sales call to action. That's fine. And sometimes that sales call to action isn't simply book now. If you have a cold lead who lands on your page, even if it's a referral lead, and they land on your social media to look at that, book now, book now, book now, book now, book now, book now, book now is not building a relationship with them. Even let me plan, let me plan, let me plan, which is what if you watch that live from last Friday on Instagram, you saw that I want you to change your wording from book with me to plan with me, or talking more about the entire service than just the simple booking process, right? And I have a podcast earlier in the season called Beyond the Booking. All of those things are talking about ways to describe what you do that are not just booking vacations, but if they're all sales call to action, and also, this is the other thing, if they are all immediate now calls to action, right? Like comment below to get started. Like if that's that feels pressure packed. It feels like they are being asked to immediately commit to something when they're doing that, and they may not be ready. Again, even if they're a referral, even if they saw one of your clients rave about your service on social media, so they now click your link and come to follow you, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, they're now following you because somebody told them to. But they're still not completely bought into you or your service because they're getting to know you. And if all you're ever doing is selling to them, they feel like a number and not a human. And so we have to make sure that our calls to action are not just about selling to them, but they're also about engaging with them, getting to know them, that you are getting feedback. So what all can your calls to action and your feedback or your engagement tell you? Well, it can tell you content you need to create. When people, like one of the very first places when I go to start creating a content plan for the next couple months, the first places that I go are my comments and my DMs, things people have messaged me about that piece of content, things that people have, um, you know, commented below, asking more questions about things. I will go in depth on more topics from that because I know people want to learn more about it. So if you're getting really good questions on a piece of content, that's telling you they want to know more about it. Let's create some content around that. And if all you're ever doing is telling people to book now or plan now or comment below to get started, you're not giving them time to engage with you and ask questions because they think they better not comment or ask a question below, or you're going to be like saying, okay, let's get started, let's plan. They want to get to know you. And so if you're not letting them have the space to do that, if you are constantly feeling, if they are feeling pressure to immediately buy essentially on your page, on your profile, on all of your content, they are either going to tune out, unfollow, or not come back because they aren't really learning, and we're skipping over the know, like, trust factor. And the know, like, trust factor may be one of the oldest things in the marketing journey or the whole social media content journey. But hold on, I need to sip of coffee. You can't talk as fast as I do without drinking coffee. Just saying. But the know, like, trust factor may be something that was started so long ago when social media actually became a real, like, commodity, but it cannot be skipped over. It is the basic foundation that marketing principals have to follow. They have to know who you are. No one is turning why do you think they go to Costco or Expedia? First off, they've seen them, they've seen advertising. Of course, it's paid advertising. It's totally different for big brands, right? It's totally different for them. But they feel comfortable with them. They've heard a lot about them. They know. Costco, they trust them to feed their families. They trust them to clothe their kids. Why not plan a vacation? And if you are skipping over all of that know, like, and trust to just go to sell, you've missed them and they're no longer going to be there. And like it or not, these big brands, they actually know the brand. They know it, they like it because they shop there and they trust them because they've been there for them in the past. Now, so you have to do the same thing. And you can do this by we've talked a lot about this season on this podcast. They have to know who you are. Put a face to it. If you are an agency owner who represents multiple agents, put their faces on your content. Put their faces and their names out there. Let them see the life's blood of your agency, and those are your booking agents. Let them see them. Again, let them show up in stories, share their faces and their pictures on in your highlights. Talk about them in your content. What are their tips? What are they doing? That is how they'll get to know your brand if you're an agency owner. If you are an individual agent, an IC, or a solopreneur, you have to show up, whether it's by showing your vacation photos or you're making sure that you're showing up live or in your stories, even if it's, again, your vacation photos. But you have to show up. A logo is not going to do it. They have to connect to the brand, and you are the brand. The agents are the brand, and they have to connect to that. So make sure that you are making a human connection, and Book Now doesn't do that. Okay. They have to like you. And in order for them to like you, first off, is not even the right word. They don't have to like you. Your ideal client has to like you. Now, you can have a couple of different ideal clients, especially if you're an agency owner and you have people doing different things. But if you aren't speaking to someone specific in each individual piece of content, you've lost them. So, in order for them to like you, they have to relate to you. They need to feel like you hear them and understand them. And the only way you can do that is to speak to them, not around them, not above them, but directly to them. And in order to do that, you have to understand your ideal client, what they feel, what their season is. You have to speak to that. When you do that, they will understand that and they will begin to like you. And then they have to trust you. And here's the part that we're missing when it comes to this book now mentality. You can give them all the tips and tricks. That's awesome. There are all kinds of travel bloggers and influencers that will do the same thing. You have to explain your service because you need them to trust you on the destinations you plan, but there's twofold to that. They have to trust you on the destinations. You have to build your authority in the destinations that you plan. That is absolutely true. But they also have to understand what it is that you do in order to trust your service. Therefore, you can't simply talk about destinations without talking about your service. And you can't just talk about your service without showcasing the destinations that you plan. These two things have to go together hand in hand in order to create the type of content that will set you apart from travel bloggers and influencers and set you apart from booking engines. You're not simply giving tips and tricks. You're also not simply booking vacations. You're doing all of that. And in order to set yourself apart, you have to hit both sides of that coin. So create calls to action that ask questions and then have conversations. Social media has social in the title. Therefore, the platforms are there for you to be social and speak to people. Now, here's the thing. We could sit here and talk about how the algorithm wants you to be social and how the algorithm wants you to engage and how it's going to help your algorithm and your reach and how many people see your content the more that you engage with people. And that's true. There is no growth on social media without engagement. I promise you, you can't just post and walk away and never DM, never comment, never like you can't do that. You have to show up and be social if you want to grow on social media. But let's say you don't care about growth on social media. You don't care about more followers. You just want to put your information out there. That's fine. But you also won't create relationships with new potential clients without being social. If you are showcasing, if you are sharing, if you are speaking to your ideal clients like they're people, social media is a free way to connect with potential clients. When you go to a networking event, you have to be social to gain new leads. When you go to a vendor event, you have to be social to engage new leads. You can't go to a vendor event and sit on your phone behind the table and not speak to anyone and expect that anyone is going to pay attention to your business or want to work with you. It's the same thing with your social content. If all you're ever saying is book with me, book now, and you're behind your phone, not paying any attention or speaking to them, you're not creating connection. If you want to grow in your business, you have to create connection. Social media is one way to do that, but you have to be social. Learn about people, understand people. The more you are social with people on social media, the more you will understand your ideal client. And the more you understand your ideal client, the closer you can get to them and the more converting your content can become. So have conversations with them. Okay? All right. So now let's talk about when book now never works. Let me just scratch that right off at the top. Okay. Let's talk about when sales calls to action actually work. I got to readjust my feet. My foot's going to sleep. Okay. Hold on. I gotta get like stretched up. If you've ever seen me talk live, you know, like I start wiggling around in my chair when I start to get on a soapbox. So here we go. When sales calls to action work, they work on warm leads. Sales calls to action for a small business like a travel agency or a solopreneur or an IC travel agent will not work on cold leads that just land on your page, but it will work on warm leads. So if you aren't warming them up, you are wasting your time posting sales calls to action. Sales calls to action can be used on advertising posts, obviously. When new promotions, let's say that one of your goals is to get some last minute summer bookings. Say you plan Disney vacations, you need a couple more bookings in July and August. You would like to have a few more bookings in July and August, and that's going to be a goal. So you're going to create an advertisement style post that goes up on your feed in addition to your other content. This is just an ad post, right? You don't have to run it as an ad. It doesn't have to be paid for. You can do an advertisement style post on your organic page, right? But this is going to be all about that. You're going to explain the promotion. You are and this is going to be the call to action is going to be send us a DM to take advantage of this promotion and let us help you plan today. You know, availability is limited. Don't wait. That call to action is number one. Those posts are not going to get near as much engagement, but you can actually hit your warm leads. But if you're not warming them up, if it's all sales, then they're all cold. So those advertisement style posts have to come few and far between the serving and the social, the relatable, the education. All of those things have to come few few and far between. So some features you can use that make things really easy. Here's the other thing. Clicking link in bio, we have seen just doing some market research. We have seen the click link in bio doesn't work well. But having them DM you and then sharing the post to your stories with a link does work. Okay. So those are some options to do that. Realize it's not going to get the same amount of engagement. Realize you do need those every once in a while. Of course, you have to talk about promotions, but don't simply talk about the promotion without mentioning your service, and realize that they have to be part of a warm lead. Warm leads are the only people who are going to be interested in those promotions. You've warmed them up. If you aren't spending any time warming them up, then you've lost their attention. And so this warm up with what we just talked about before is why some of the get started planning with us today works. Again, don't ever have a sales post that doesn't talk to your service, even when you're talking about a destination promotion, because they can simply go book process, right? They can simply go do that on their own on the consumer site or whatever. Okay, so we went in depth on this today. I want to know what you think. Hop on over to Instagram, either get in my DMs today or comment on the book now call to action post that's on my feed. And I want to know what you think. I want to answer the questions that you have. So fun times. Now, if you watch the live from last Friday and you would like to have more content like that, I highly suggest you checking out my subscriptions. So you can join my subscribers directly in Instagram. It is $4.99 a month. So a really low cost investment to get high quality, lots and lots of content inside there. Every week we have a broadcast channel, which is like a huge group message. I'm actually getting ready to go start it here in just a couple minutes. And I answer questions, and there's a lot of networking and communication going on in there, and it lasts for 24 hours. I do that every week. There are a couple extra bonus lives inside subscribers, lots of reels, and usually a carousel a week too. So there's a lot of bonus content inside there for only $4.99 a month. And it will absolutely be one of the best investments you can make in your business going forward. So you can do that directly on my Instagram account, which is at Kelli Hayes Smith. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Social Takeoff Podcast. Make sure to leave us a review below and come find me on Instagram at Kelli Hayes Smith and let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Make sure to check back every Friday for a bonus episode, 5 Things Friday, and every Tuesday for a brand new episode. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Social Takeoff Podcast. Make sure to leave us a review below and come find me on Instagram at Kelli Hayes Smith and let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Make sure to check back every Friday